It's time for the hot topic of the hour as Maria is live this morning from the Reagan National Economic Forum. The top minds of business are gathering there to exchange ideas on American enterprise and economic prosperity. Maria sat down with JPMorgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon in California, and he gave her a sense of the economy right now, the new leadership at the Federal Reserve, and what is driving policy in New York City. Watch.
Yeah, I want to get your take. The largest bank, you've got so much exposure to the consumer and to housing as well as to commercial and business. How would you characterize the economy right now? Give us your sense of the macro story. Well,
it's pretty good, which all your viewers know is that, the economy is growing at 2%, unemployment's low, 4.3%, wages not going up that much anymore. Corporate debt's not that high, consumer debt's actually not that high. Inflation is ticking up, that's not good. And you have a lot of stimulus. The one big beautiful bill, $300 billion of stimulus. The additional spending AI is $300 billion of stimulus. Dereg, it's a form of good stimulus because it allows people to put their money to work in a better way. And so those things are good. And a lot of that, but we have a huge deficit, and that's kind of stimulus that also ends up in corporate profits. So corporate profits, are up huge this year. So people are feeling good. Stock prices are up. That's all good. And there may be negatives. I think the one that you can see a little bit is inflation going up.
Yeah. Have you seen inflation cutting into consumers' ability to actually spend? Are they cutting into their savings?
Yes. I think, you got to separate consumers into various segments. For the high end, it doesn't do anything. And if you take the higher gas prices, $1 of gas is $100 billion a year. But of course, it affects lower income folks much more. And for them, they have to cut back something else or do something. So what has happened for some is they have cut savings and they still spend. And, and borrowing is going up just a little bit. So it might be that. It might not be sustainable forever, and we don't know what's going to happen with future gas prices. So you do have a little bit of that.
So you feel good about where we are now in the economy, even though inflation is ticking up?
Yeah, I feel okay. I'm a little more worried about other people. I see, it's not their immediate cracks in the economy. It's the other things I worry about that has a long list of serious issues that are going to have to be dealt with. I don't know how they're going to affect the economy this year. You can't put them in a base forecast. They are large items. I always refer to them as tectonic plates moving around that may cause issues that we don't fully understand today.
Now, one thing that Kevin Warsh did say was that he wants to make the Fed's balance sheet smaller, shrink the balance sheet. What does that mean for JPMorgan, though? I mean, what does that mean for a bank like yours, which you've got to keep money at the Federal Reserve?
Well, but we keep money at these things because of regulations and requirements, liquidity rules. So I think he's right. The Fed shouldn't have to intervene every single time there's a kerfuffle in the markets. It's a mistake. It's a policy error that we somehow got to make everyone comfortable. But to do it, he's got to change some of those regulations and the LCR and SLR and certain G-SIFI rules to give banks more flexibility. But the important thing is, it's not to deregulate to make it easier for banks to make a lot of money and then go bankrupt. I think you would do it and make the system safer. And I think Kevin's quite bright. He probably knows that. And it's going to take a little bit of analysis. We've got a lot of reports to the Fed about how that can be done. I think Secretary Betts has actually spoken about it. To do that, we have to change some of these requirements. But the banks have so much capital and so much liquidity. It's a good question to say, you can never use it again in your life. And for us, it's $1.2 trillion of basic cash and treasuries. Can never use for productive purposes other than safety, which is a good one. But I think we could do it much differently and have more safety. And then we can intermediate more actively in the markets, as opposed to the Fed having to intermediate when the time comes.
Well, what I've learned is everything is about policy, right? I mean, look at the policy in New York right now and in California. Yeah. You've got people leaving California because of this potential billionaires tax. What do you want to say about Mamdani in New York?
I think good policy is free. I feel like telling the politicians, don't try to raise more taxes or spend more money. Sit down and fix policy. And I think you can grow 1% faster. I literally believe that. And the public knows you can't get certificates of occupancy. You can't get roads built. The bridges.
Well, that's
like the Baltimore Bridge. The Baltimore Bridge was supposed to be built by now. It's another 5 years. I go on and on and on.
You've been talking about this for so long.
It's frustrating. It hurts. It's embarrassing, and it always hurts the civilians of our country. And so I had a great meeting with Mamdani. It was pleasant. But I said everything I wanted to say. I've seen mayors grow into the job. I mean, he's running a city of 300,000 employees now. He's never had a job like that. And I've seen mayors who they fail abysmally because they can't administer themselves out of a paper bag, or ideology blinds them to practical, realistic, real-world policy. And so we'll see. And then, if I can help him do the good stuff, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, but Jamie, give me a break. He did a video in front of Ken Griffin's house. I mean, that's a security issue.
I agree. My guess is he probably regrets that, but you got to ask him that.
And we've got the full interview coming up here of Chairman and CEO of JPMorgan, Jamie Dimon, coming up. There's a little montage there, but I'm here with Liz Peek right now. And Liz, you've talked to a lot of people already this morning. Your reaction to Jamie Dimon, what struck you most? But we've got the interview coming up.
Well, I think on his economic message, it's pretty clear that everything has to do with the war in Iran. Unfortunately, that's kind of the beginning and the end, because what's he worried about? He's worried about inflation. So are Americans. They don't like $4 gasoline. And the only thing that's going to change that, Maria, is some sort of resolution where the strait is open, we get the oil flowing. I think Besson's right. There's a lot of oil sitting in those tankers. Very quickly it gets to market. Very quickly the price begins to cut down. But other than that, if that doesn't happen anytime soon, I think inflation is going to be the uppermost issue on everybody's mind. Obviously, we're experiencing a boom in productivity, a boom in investment. So far, the consumer has been the other leg of the economic driver here, doing quite well. And we're hoping, obviously we hope that all these things get resolved and the consumer feels better and continues to spend, because that's going to be the good outlook. On Mamdani, good luck with his optimism. I'm not so positive.
Yeah, well, it's great analysis, Liz, as usual. But, President Trump has to walk this balance right now. On the one hand, he's got to eliminate this potential nuclear threat. And on the other hand, he's got to get oil and gas down before the midterm elections.
Yeah, but he established red lines, no nukes, no enrichment, get rid of the enriched uranium you have, et cetera. I think he's totally right. You've got to stick with that, because otherwise people are going to say, what was it for?
Yeah.
You have got to get to those agreements, and I agree. I mean, it is a very tough thing, but good for him for holding fast.
Yeah, Cheryl Sony, I mean, when you look at the supply-demand situation, we've reported so many times that the U.S. right now is producing more oil and gas than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined, Cheryl. And so you would imagine just supply and demand, you've got all that oil on the market. Look, UAE just walked out of OPEC. They don't have to follow those quotas anymore. Just the simple supply of oil on the market should send prices lower at some point. Well, we've got to get out of this conflict.
Yeah, and President Trump addressed that in that cabinet meeting, the 12th of his second term, Marie, and he talked about the fact that you've got ships that have been coming to the Gulf of America that are buying and exporting and taking away American oil. And Maria, thank you for asking Jamie Dimon about Zohran Mamdani. I cannot wait to hear more of that interview, because what he said, fix policy, fix roads, build bridges. Thank you, Maria, for bringing that up. I can't wait to hear more.
Yeah. Well, thanks. We got the whole interview coming up. He told me about the meeting that they had and how he made sure to say what he had to say. So we'll have more of my interview with Jamie Dimon coming up this morning, all morning long. We're going to take a short break and come back, check markets. The melt-up continues this morning with the Dow Industrials up another 60 right now. We're live from the Reagan National Economic Forum here in Simi Valley, and we'll be right back.